Othercide is a game that was published through Focus Home Interactive and developed through Lightbulb Crew, which is composed of many talented developers stationed out there in France and Sweden. They also gave us the game Games of Glory. Anyway, Othercide is one of the games that I kept my eye on for some time and would catch myself watching a multitude of interviews and mini web series with the devs going in depth about how this game was created. Othercide was released on July 28th of 2020. You know what version I'm rocking with, so let's get into it. This game's story is about as abstract as it looks, but I'll give it my best shot as to explain my interpretation at least. So here goes. Othercide is about these creatures known as the Others, which exist in this parallel dimension known as the Dark Corner that resides side by side the realm of the living. So essentially, you have our plane of existence where, you have people just doing their thing. But then on the flip side of it, you have this dimension where these monsters are created by the negative emotions and feelings of humans. The line which keeps these two dimensions in check and separate from each other is what is known as the Veil. Residing in the Dark Corner, this woman known as the Mother has made it her mission to protect the Veil, to keep beings from the Dark Corner from invading and destroying people in the human realm by vanquishing these creatures known as the Suffering. Now, for a very long time, she's been holding off the Suffering, which is kind of manipulating this character known as the Child. He kind of looks like an unloved, unnurtured, and malnourished child who is trying to cosplay as Scarecrow from the Batman. So through this intense power that he's gained by the Suffering, he kinda goes nuts and throws a temper tantrum and damn near destroys the Veil and the Mother in the process. As a last ditch effort, the spirit of the Mother manifests itself and begins creating these remnants of herself known as daughters. Hopefully she used these offsprings to fend off the Suffering and restore order. Now at first I just thought that this game was about a dysfunctional relationship between an actual mother and her child that probably has never been introduced to a belt due to the resentment and blatant disrespect. But the more I dive deep into this game's lore via cutscenes, the many readings of the characters' bios, and these chapters, I kinda began to understand why this little kid is the way he is. To make a long story short, this kid has been through a lot at the hands of institutions. Going through some of the things that this kid went through makes it damn near impossible for you to come out still remaining to be yourself. This kid got issues, and as a matter of fact, all the other characters within this game have issues too, and I mean a lot of them. It kinda makes them look as the physical manifestation of their names. Every one of them somewhat has a dark and grim backstory as to what led them to become the monsters that we see. Othercide has this gritty noir look to it. A lot of black, gray, and white, but only in ever so often use of red that can be seen utilized for stylistic purposes and for grabbing your attention towards important things. Now that I'm saying it, it sounds very simple, but how it's actually seen being used in this game is what quite honestly drew me into picking this game up in the first place. Due to its somewhat small color palette, levels can feel a little bit mundane, but when one takes in the time to study the environments, a more greater level of appreciation from acknowledging the small details put into these designs needs a standing ovation. Some of the architecture and grounds made of stones look lovely. For example, how the water looks realistic and move about, how the lightning hits, the level that looks like a bunch of people from the Court of Owls is watching as an audience, just to see how you fare against the monsters, and the list goes on. The various stages you find yourself doing your skirmishes on tells tragic stories. That is, if you look at the symbolism of what's being presented to you. I'm confident that this was intentional. Just another visual clue or a piece of a puzzle the player has to put together in order to understand the bigger picture of this game's lore. Speaking of monsters, the different types that you'll stumble across looks like something out of a rated R Harry Potter novel or a Silent Hill game. Majority if not all enemies are white, which kinda gives me the Nobody feels from the Kingdom Hearts series. How these creatures move about is beautifully disturbing, and how these creatures are designed makes it very easy in deciphering which one is who, or even which types is which. But I can't forget the daughters. Every daughter that is randomly created comes with somewhat of their own style, which is very much welcome. Not anything over the top, but just enough to give each daughter their own personalized individuality. It could be a change in color of their outfits, or even a change in their hairstyle. The drawn illustrations of each character and their lore in the main menu was done quite well also. It made it a tad bit easier for me to identify some of these characters that I'm going against, because if you look at the actual boss that you go against, and look at their actual human form, the contrast is quite baffling. While I'm on the menu for that matter, it's here where I quickly notice the animations of your sisters. They are fluid and detailed with their eyes looking around, and not to mention their movements. I personally love it when their stance changes whenever I look at their status. While I'm still on animations, the cutscenes of Othercide is no slouch either. They definitely look like a beautiful piece of abstract horror. Even the animations within combat looks amazing. How the camera zooms up or even shows off this mini animation depending on what type of attack you're doing. Looks like it comes from a graphic novel of sorts. There was these creatures that I hated because they kept mutating every time I spanked them one good time, but seeing how their bodies twist and contort themselves never gets old. But I kinda noticed right off the bat that some of the minor character designs kinda looks like it stems from a Victorian era. Overall, how this game looks is captivating and amazing. I can somewhat see people getting bored if they play hours upon hours consecutively, and if all the colors that they see were just this small palette, it could make things a little bit more samey, but for me though, I loved it. To each his own. Othercide is essentially a tactical RPG game that has to play a controlling character strategically like a game of chess on an isometric playing field. Except in this case, Othercide possesses some roguelike elements that is baked into this challenging but fun game. The player takes hold of these ladies called daughters that come in one of 3 classes. You have your soul slingers that is good at long range attacks. Another one's whose specialty is defense and buffs. The shield kinda gives it away as to what the shield bearer is good for. And lastly, the one that's good at physical offensive approaches. I mean, look, she has a big ass sword, so it kinda gives it away. This class is called the Blade Master. There's actually a full class that you may have seen make a quick cameo in the trailers. You have to unlock this class, but this type of daughter is really good at debuffing enemies, especially those who like increasing their shields to the point where it's utterly pointless to attack them. So these daughters go in and out of battle defeating these creatures that come in various types. Just like the daughter, some of these monsters are good at long range attacks. Some are good at moving farther across distances. Some support other creatures and especially bosses that are pretty much just walking tanks that will go off on you like you owe it money. I think after day 5, the bosses become unlocked, but don't prematurely go off and face them if you're not ready for it. If you're not careful, they will kill you relentlessly. To stay alive, each daughter comes with their own different types of abilities that will help fend off and destroy your opponents. You have options to attack your opponents directly after picking which attack that you want to do on an opponent that's nearby. You have other attacks that are triggered when your opponents acts, which are helpful in interrupting your opponent's turns, dealing damage and forcing them to end their turn. My personal favorite daughters, which are awesome in administering this kind of attacks, are the Soul Slinger class. Last but not least, you have your attacks that it takes some time to power up to unleash on whoever is around you. However, for these delayed attacks, you have to make sure that your opponent is at least still there when you're good and ready to attack, or else it'll just be a waste of time and effort. Another helpful tip before you go on the offensive side is to read up on your enemy's abilities and where they are on the map. Being preemptive can set you up for success. But before the player goes buck wild, this game has a system that limits your actions. Introducing the AP system. You and the opponents you face go by this system. There's no exceptions to this. The daughters start off with 100 AP points that you spend every time you move across the stage and perform an action. There is an exception, but those are only for abilities that will cause you to sacrifice a small portion of your health. Your AP and how you utilize it will determine the flow of battle, literally. At the bottom of the screen, you see icons of your daughters and monsters. Just like in Final Fantasy X, this thing here is essentially a timeline that is centered around the AP that you use. The more AP you spend will more than likely have you enter this burst status that will set you back further in the timeline. If this happens, the monsters will have the opportunity to move multiple times with you waiting longer before it's your turn again. This can be quite punishing if you aren't careful. My advice is to utilize your AP wisely. It's only good for you to go all out if the result is turning the battle in your favor. This game is all about sacrifices and taking chances. Speaking of sacrifices, this game really takes the turn taking one for the team to a whole nother level. In other tactical games, there would normally be something like potions, elixirs, remedies, or an item that will help heal your character when it's low on health. But for some reason, this game didn't get the memo. At the main menu, in order for you to heal a daughter, you first have to put another daughter that is on the same level or higher on the chopping block if you want to heal your other one. Speaking of the main menu, you are brought to the screen before and after battles, where this little bar at the bottom symbolizes days, and at the very end lies your boss battles. Think of Persona 5. In the time you have an inevitable boss battle ahead, you better get to work on using your time wisely, because if you're not ready, these bosses will wear your ass out. So in the meantime, there is something called synapses that are really just missions that you can go on. Othercide has a couple of types of missions. One being hunting, where you have to kill everything moving. Another one, in which I believe is called penance, where each of your daughters have to escape by filling a bar every time you kill a monster. Survival is where you have to stick around while this time goes down during each turn, and escape when the location is revealed for you to depart. And lastly, rescue, where you have to protect this soul and get it across to this escape point. After you successfully save that soul, you can sacrifice it or let it live afterwards. Each brings their own reward, so do what you gotta do. Side note, other than hunting, while doing certain types of battles, be careful in which order and how your daughters are departed. Enemies are going to be spawning out of nowhere, and they will become a little bit more relentless in their barrage of attacks. The wrong move could lead the last daughter in a sticky situation. The important question is, how do your daughters become stronger? Well, after each mission you get experience points to level up, and Vitae, which is like this game currency that can be utilized to purchase perks called memories that add additional buffs and effects to your abilities, and can be used to create new daughters to name, level up, do battle with, or just be used as a sacrificial lamb for the daughter you show favoritism, like a bad parent. For the daughters that has died in combat, you get this rare item called coins. This helpful little item has the power to bring back one of your sisters from the dead. You can attain these items by either doing these rescue missions by sacrificing the soul you just saved, or beginning a new recollection, aka a run, or what this game considers an era. Doing this will increase the shards that you obtain during your skirmishes, and also will grant you one of those coins to bring one of your daughters back to life. Now, whenever you complete a synapsis, you gain these shards. These things are needed in order to activate something called a remembrance. More on that in a sec. One good thing about this game is that you'll never ever lose shards. stars. You only obtain them and just rack them up. Soon enough, you'll be able to activate every single remembrance you get. Starting a new recollection seems like a good way to obtain shards, but doing that will send all the daughters that you have now into the grave, then in turn will have you start off again with new daughters. Bringing back one of your daughters is one of the beneficial and forgiving features this game has, unlike another tactical game that has permadeath for characters you invest time and money into. Now, remember when I said the Othercide has roguelike elements baked into it? Well, in the indie gaming world where roguelike games are running rampant, the mechanic of such titles in this game genre centered around their guarantee and the promise that the player will die a multitude of times. Othercide, with all of its intense pressure to put on the player to make good decisions, is no different. You will die in this game, but with each run you have, you gain these things called remembrances, which are unlocked when specific requirements are met. This is the second forgiving option of Othercide. This will permit the player to not only try again after sadly wasting time and dying in their previous run, but have the player try again with more advantages than what the player initially had to work with on their previous run. The music of Othercide has this rock element to it, allowing this game to come off epic. Booting up this game for the first time and looking at the visuals present while the music was playing in the background gave me the type of experience I was probably in for. Dark, ethereal, and foreboding music is what I would describe these songs. Expect a lot of guitar riffs, soft strings, and headbanging. One of the standouts for me was this song called Soul Swap, featuring Holocene. If you like Evanescence, Linkin Park, or the Deftones, this song will be more than a pleasing welcome to your listening experience. The OST for Othercide was done by Max Leisure, Saludaris, and Pierre Lapape. It was published through Black Screen Records. I believe this publisher also did worse in publishing other video games OSTs as well, notably the Fitshun's Mother Russia Bleeds, Celeste, and the Risk of Rain OSTs. I would consider giving the Othercide's original soundtrack a good listening to. Links to where you can do so and also be able to purchase them will be provided in the description below as always. Just hit that YouTube tab that says show more.
He needs us. The other has come for the chosen one, and soon the veil will break.
The sound design of Othercide comes with a quality that is top tier and damn near cinematic. Attacks sound very crunchy and satisfying. The daughters with their fingers on the triggers pass a huge punch when they're firing off rounds from their needlessly ridiculous big ass magnums. Same goes for the Blade Master when they're brandishing their massive swords to wipe the floor with some monsters.
Failed. You most of all.
Lastly, the voice acting in this game is superb and sure as hell attention grabbing. Playing this game with surround sound is pure heaven. Othercide gets an 8 to a 9 out of 10. This game is for your tactical RPG gamers. This game isn't complicated to pick up nor to understand, which is a plus and puts to the test the player's ability to make decisions. I don't know if any other ports of this game has this mode, but there's a mode called Dream Mode that makes things a tad bit easier on the player. In this mode, your daughters will be able to recover 50% of their health as opposed to playing this game how it was intended, which includes the player having to massacre your daughters just to heal another one as your only means of recovering health. Now, that option is still available to you, but at least it's not mandatory being your only option. Also, you will be able to get a free resurrection coin at the start of every run, which would definitely make this game a breeze. If you combine that one free token with certain remembrances that give you more additional tokens, you can spam this strategy to level up a good number of your daughters, seeing as though death won't really hold that much weight. I can see people utilizing this method to make, in my opinion, the most broken class of the daughters, the Soul Slingers, more powerful. If you can get like 4 daughters of this class, apply that interception round with that shadow round, you can just laugh maniacally as you watch your daughter switch cheese an enemy just for trying to do anything. But anyway, this game is now available for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Steam for close to $40. I enjoyed everything about this game. Its lore and story, and the fact that everything isn't spelled out for you leaves me looking for more. Shoutouts to the Lightbulb crew, you guys have really created a unique and awesome game. So, to you guys, cheers. To everybody else, until next time, be safe out there, and peace y'all.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit up that notification bell, and I gotta go.